All right. Hi there, George Hripcsak here. And then we'll just close it out in a couple of minutes. Before I start, I just want to make one comment about something earlier. Someone had asked, I couldn't see the audience then, and asked a question about HDPS. We made a slight joke, but I want to be a little more accurate. So, you know, HDPS was invented many years ago at a time before computers were so fast. It uses heuristics, and that was a good thing because you could calculate it. It attempts to find the confounders, looking at both the treatments and the outcomes, and comes up with like 200 variables, and it works surprisingly well. LSPS is what OHDSI uses. It's different. It just looks at the treatments. It doesn't look at the outcomes. It doesn't try to find the confounders. It says, let's just do all the variables, and that will include the confounders. And you can read a paper by Linying Zhang, which was just published, on why that's not a bad thing from a causal inference. Don't worry about the details of why that doesn't hurt us, confounders and, colliders and mediators. Anyway, and in our work, in Martijn Schumi's paper showed that when we compare the two head-on, LSPS actually worked better than HDPS. And, but really, if you look at the literature, the argument's not between the two of them, it's between them and people who want to do hand-written confounders. And that's what the argument, and we use a lot of the arguments that Sebastian Schneeweiss uses for HDPS, we also use for LSPS. But I think that LSPS is, I agree with Martijn, that's what I would be using. I think, honestly, my personal opinion, and this is an opinion because I haven't proved it yet, is the reason HDPS works so well is because it's basically mimicking what LSPS actually does. And if they had computers like ours today, 20 years ago, they would have done that. Anyway, but it's still a working method, and that's what FDA uses in many of its analyses, and it works well. So this was a whirlwind tour. I guess you gathered that. And you know, it's kind of a detailed roadmap. So a lot of these things, normally each of these topics would be an 8-hour tutorial, and then be a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more getting it down into the details. But the problem is, if you do one of those tutorials every year, then 8 years from now you'd have been all the way through it. So if you don't want to wait the full 8 years, we got to do one as a kind of a rapid fire tour. And so you fill in the gaps by, as we mentioned, going to the Eden Academy and doing each of these tutorials are there online. I mean, it's nice to be here in person, but now you can go after these 1-hour to 2-hour versions, go and carry those through. Also, our YouTube videos for previous presentations, our forums, joining the work groups. You know, what does it take to do this? If you want to do one of these analyses, well, generally someone has to, you know, if you actually want to do this thing cover to cover, you have to throw yourself into it. Like, it's just going to be a lot of work. I mean, the good news, it's long and it's hard, but it's not impossible. Without all this stuff, it's just impossible for the most part to do it reliably. So I think this makes it possible, but it's still a lot of work to do this. And so that's why we have OHDSI as backup, as a collaboration, so we can work together. And so I'm curious, like, how many people are taking this tutorial because they're going to do some specific tasks, like build infrastructure? They want to kind of see this is a nice intro to the full thing, and it's a quick one, if 8 hours is quick, but relatively quick, and now you can go and do your part. So how many people are here, like, just for, okay, the second one is going to be how many people are actually going to do the full analysis cover to cover. So how many people are here just for some part of it? Okay, so that's you know, at least half. And then how many people are looking to come here to learn how to do this cover to cover and run a full study? So a much smaller number, a much smaller number. And then what else are people doing? What am I missing?
Food's good.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, so what we're thinking about is like, I'm trying to figure out, how should we be doing this? As I said, one way, throw yourself in and spend 6 months just iterating, going through the materials, making mistakes, asking on the forum, and that's basically been our process so far. I'm wondering, do we need to create something like a bulletin board where you know, there are people who kind of want to do one part and they're good at it and they want to volunteer their time. And if we could connect them together, you know, then they could be co-author on a paper where there's a clinician who wants to do their part. What I get in my email box from my institution is someone who has an idea and wants to just do a study and they want to know if I want to collaborate, which means they have this idea and then they want me to like get the data, build the phenotypes, run the analysis, interpret the data, write the paper, and then put them as first author. So, and they're always looking, well, do you have any postdocs? Well, my postdocs are funded by some grant and they, you know, they have a full-time job and they're here to learn, not to do a service work. And so, you know, it's hard. And so I try to match people together. So I'm wondering how much there can be a matchmaker service that OHDSI does. I don't know exactly what the structure should be, but so I'm kind of thinking about that. It would probably be asking people like, you know, who wants to put in their time in return for being, say, co-author on a paper to be part of a group. And the total hours put in might not be that long now because you know how to do it. For those who already know how to do it, it would have to be someone with access to a database or be able to tell someone who has access to the database to do it. But then the turnaround time's not that long. Anna Ostropolitz's data consult service, I mean, she's getting a question and trying to answer it by the next day. So clearly she's been able to turn around studies in a day. So someone who's part of OHDSI and wants to be part of a paper to spend that amount of time is, you know, feasible at least. So we may be looking into that. But I'm looking for comments from the audience about that topic.
I definitely came here with the intention of learning certain pieces of it, but I definitely feel inspired to explore more. I also feel like I finally know enough that maybe I could contribute. I've been a bit of a looky-loo for the last 3 years because we haven't had data, so I've just been kind of hanging around the seminars and the forums and trying to figure out what's what. Now I kind of feel like I could go somewhere with it. Like it's
good. Yeah. Good to hear. Others? Anyone who raised their hand that they're planning on doing the whole study cover to cover, did you already know how to do it or did you gain?
I feel like I have a good roadmap and a vision of what needs to come together. Now I just have to go back and find how to do it.
And I'm actually in that group. So like I don't, unlike Patrick and Martine and several others, Mark Suchard, they can actually run these studies. I actually can't do it myself. And I kind of understand it. I get the concepts and I'm co-author on many of the papers, both methods and clinical. But I can't actually run the study and I don't know what to press. And I'm hoping now, as I step down as chair of my department, but still OHDSI Coordinating Center, to actually throw myself into it and be able to run the studies myself. So I will be on the same long road with you. Yeah, right. I'll call you. Nice.
I think one of the things is the time interval between doing the learning and then applying it. Because, you know, if you leave it too long, you get too rusty and you've forgotten and so forth, you can go back. So tying up the kind of dating service, if you want, very soon after this event, in terms of potential opportunities, so people can say, oh, I have an opportunity to apply this even if I can't do that in my local environment, would be, I think, very important actually in terms of making sure people can keep their skill set up. So keeping that training process going.
We do want to hear back from you because, and we actually do have to vacate. It's 10 of, and they want this to be a ghost town by the stroke of 5 because they have another group coming right in. So I will more or less end here after I remind you to please fill in your evaluations to let us know, you know, what went well, what went not so well that we could improve on. And we appreciate your coming and spending the day with us. Wait, and we need a photo.
Well, I think, the picture, so.